And this is the Adam and Rob. We'll start
Oh,
there.
okay. All
Yeah.
right. Sounds good.
Are
Sounded like a
you?
70s game show for a second, so I got a little nervous, I will admit.
Yeah.
Right.
Every.
Today on the dating game.
Mwah. All right. So
Right.
here is today's message. Are you looking to buy a home in this market without all the crazy? Today's tip is all about that. And with that, welcome in to episode 4 of the Adam and Rob podcast. Mr.
That is
Myers, how
right.
are you doing
Welcome,
today, sir?
everybody.
Hey.
I'm sorry?
And I said, and how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
We're doing great. It's soggy, and we're
Yes,
getting through the torrential downpour, the
that is
rainy
true.
season. So, all right. So we got a lot to discuss today. So last week's episode 3, was all about buyer beware. This is also going to be a buyer episode because we're going to be giving what I think is the secret tip, if you would, the secret sauce to buying a home with as little drama as possible and a buyer's way to avoid potentially a multiple offer situation, which is happening a lot. So, Mr. Myers, you want to go ahead and give them that information? What is the tool? What are we talking about today?
Well, today we're going to talk about rehab loans. So we're seeing and hearing a lot of all these flipping companies popping out of the woodwork, trying to buy up these houses. In some instances, doing a horrific rehab flip, whatever you want to call it. And so the rehab loan actually allows the buyer slash future homeowner to buy that home that needs fixed up. And it allows them to also get the funds to do the fixing up. Now, again, not themselves. They can't do it themselves. They have to hire a contractor to do it. But it allows them to secure the property. Plus, it also factors in the improvements. And so a conventional rehab loan or an FHA 203K loan. That's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, and these things can really be a big tool for any buyer to use. And we'll also discuss maybe not a 203K, but something that sellers can do to, in essence, flip their own property as well,
Mm-hmm.
if time allows. So, all right, so 203K, what in the world is this? What does it mean? How do I get one? What are the things that I should be looking for if I'm a buyer? And just what is a 203K loan there, Mr. Myers?
So a 203K loan is referred to as a rehab loan. This allows you, let's say you're looking at a property and you really like it, but the kitchen's dated, the bathrooms are dated, it really could use a coat of paint, could use some new carpeting. This is a way where you go, location works, bed sizes work, amount of bedrooms work, like everything about it is perfect. It's just so dated. This loan would be perfect for something like that. There are some requirements. In most cases, you have to have at least a 580 or higher credit score to qualify. If you're some lenders want you at 620 or 640. So in some instances, you may qualify at 580, but they may want more money down. So if anyone's familiar with the FHA loan, they normally want 3.5% down. So if you fall into the qualifying threshold, that might still be the case. But if your credit score is a little lower, they might require more money down. But again, it could still be a great product if you're finding a house that you really love and it needs some love.
Very true. And here's why I think this tool is so underused and why I think it really is the biggest piece of advice we can give to buyers right now, not only in this market, especially this kind of market, but really in any market. And that is, a home hits the market. It's move-in ready. It's got all the bells and whistles. It's got fresh paint. It's been HGTV'd and Chip and Joanna gained from top to bottom. And it's selling at a premium price. And they get 25 offers that first day because everybody and their brother wants to be in on this house. However, grandma's house that still looks like the best of 1978, that's been sitting around for 2, 3, 4 weeks, maybe a little bit longer, and mainly because it's not move-in ready. These are the homes that should be the targets for these 203K loans if you're a buyer. One, it gives you a solid home. And secondly, it gives you your opportunity to make this home exactly the way you want it from day one because you're having that work done through the 203K loan process. So that's why I think this tool and this loan product is so underused. And I think more buyers should be taking advantage of this because of the area we live in. We have so
Yep.
many homes in this area, Rob, that were built back in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s that they just need some loving. They just need brought up to speed.
Yeah. And one of the great things with this product is investors cannot use it.
Correct.
So you don't have to worry about investors coming in and using the same product. This is for people who are going to be owner-owned, owner-occupied. So just one more thing to think about, one more tool to have in your arsenal. As with anything, there are pros and cons to every situation. You may find that the interest rate on a 203K loan might be a little bit higher, but the pros are in most cases you can go up to about 110% of the value of the property. So that allows you to really do some nice improvements. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to be to the extreme. It could be repainting the entire house and putting in all new flooring. I think when people hear rehab loan, I think they're in their minds going, oh, this has got to be a complete gut and we got to build the whole thing back up from the ground up. That is not the case with the 203K loan. You can use this for smaller projects. Now, there's a certain monetary value in upgrades that need to be done. So you got to be aware of that.
Yeah, I think the average is what? I think minimum was $5,000.
I believe the last I checked, yeah, $5,000 minimum was what was out there.
Yeah, which you can have tied up in a bathroom. Yeah,
easy.
You update a bathroom, there's $5,000 easy. So we're going to go through some of the stipulations, some things you need to know if you want to go down the 203K path. Now, just up front, Rob and I are not lenders. We are not mortgage officers. So therefore, we are not the ones who would be underwriting these loans. But we have dealt with them numerous times over the years that we've been in real estate. And I just got done dealing with one of these just about a month and a half ago. And they are such a great tool to be used. And this was actually a house that was over in Lancaster, over in Marietta. The home was completely destroyed. So to contradict what Rob just said, with a rehab loan, they did use this to basically rebuild the entire interior and redo the entire house. But they didn't.
You didn't contradict me.
Well, I didn't want to, you had said, thinking about rehabbing an entire house. This was one where they really needed to, but the benefit to them was they were able to get the home at such a low value that by the time they did all of the upgrades, they did all the rehab that they're in the middle of doing as we speak, they're actually going to have that home at current market value, if not a little bit under, but they paid such a great price for it that all those extra funds were going to be tied into making this home the exact picture perfect home they've always wanted.
Yeah, when you said contradict, I was just pointing out earlier, though, that I think most people think that the 203K loan can only be used for what you just described. And I was saying that it can be used for much, much less. Like it doesn't have to be a major rehab in order to qualify for the 203K.
Right. I mean, we've had clients that have used them and they upgraded the HVAC system and put new flooring in the kitchen, and that was perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
So, Rob, let's go ahead. Let's break down. So a 203K, if I'm a buyer that's thinking about using a 203K loan, what are the things I need to be aware of as I start looking for properties?
Well, I mean, one of the things in the process, as I mentioned before, your credit score is going to play a factor into how much down payment money that you're going to need. It is going to cost you a little bit more on the front end. There's usually a higher loan origination fee involved with it, and you're going to have to pay a HUD consultant fee. The big thing, though, if you're going to go down this rabbit hole, is make sure you're working with a lender that is familiar with the product and all the steps. You also want to make sure that you are as early in the process as you can, making sure that you're using an FHA-approved contractor, because that's going to be the biggest piece to this puzzle, is you cannot go in and do the work. So you must hire a third-party contractor to do the work. So you need to make sure that they are FHA approved. What I have found in doing this is a lot of contractors are very good at swinging the hammer and operating the saw, but they absolutely suck when it comes to paperwork. And understand and know FHA has some paperwork that contractor's going to need to do. They want itemized breakdowns, cost of materials, labor, all those different things. So you need to make sure that you have a contractor that is not only FHA approved, but also isn't afraid to do some of the paperwork that's going to be necessary.
Very true. Yeah, this is not designed for, well, hey, I own a saw and a hammer, and my brother's available, and my dad and my uncle could come over, and in a weekend we can knock a couple of these projects out,
Right.
and we get the loan. It's not. That is not how these work. That is more of a, you're just using a conventional loan and you're paying cash for that work. 203K, again, you're borrowing money, you're using a special program. There are going to be special rules involved, and that's by far is one of the biggest ones, and that is you've got to use a licensed contractor that is on the FHA HUD approved list. So let's walk through a transaction. So somebody's looking at a house, for example's sake, we'll use grandma's house. This is grandma's house. It's the best in 1978. And they're going, okay, it's got the deep shag carpeting. We've got wallpaper everywhere, and we have an outdated kitchen. These are the things that if we had new flooring, new paint, and a new kitchen, this house is ideal for what we've been looking for. And the house, because of what's needed with it, the house is underpriced. The house it has a good value to it. And if the home were all the way fixed up, that house would probably be worth another $50,000, $60,000. So, Rob, if I'm looking at putting an offer on that house and I'm going, I think I'd want to use the FHA 203K, what are my next steps?
Well, the next steps would be if you submitted the offer, obviously you've gotten your pre-approval already, you know that you qualify for that loan product. You would then want to submit your offer. You would write it basically like you would write any other offer. You would then want to get at least one or two contractors in to put together estimates, because when they do the appraisal of the property, they're going to appraise the property in the current condition it sits in, plus then do an itemized breakdown of the improvements. And that's why they need that from the contractor. And as long as the property appraises for the purchase price plus the improvements and stays within the parameters, this closes just like any other FHA loan would in the same time frame. It can close in 30 days, 45 days in most cases, assuming everybody has everything lined up and moving right along. And then the work starts once you own the property.
Correct. Yeah, nothing can be done until you own it.
Yep. So once you own it, they prefer you do not live in the home. So you also need to make arrangements. They are preferring it stays unoccupied until the work is all completed. Because once it's done, FHA is going to come back out to the house, and the appraiser's going to come back to make sure that everything meets FHA standards. So that's important, and that's part of the reason they prefer nobody lives in the home post-closing, to get the contractor in, and they have a small window of time as well to get the work done. It's not like they have forever. So make sure you interview some contractors. There are some contractors out there that are garbage and are FHA approved. I've experienced one of them and had to deal with one of them myself with a client that I had who happened to be was a family member of mine, not the contractor. The contractor just was a POS, both in his personality, how he handled his business, and the quality of work he did. So make sure that you are interviewing. Don't assume just because they're FHA approved that they're rock star contractors and they're going to knock it out of the park. Any industry, I don't care what the industry is, you have great people in the industry and you have people who are horrible. So it's always buyer beware.
How do you really feel about this guy?
I actually held back. I almost mentioned his name. That's how much I don't like him. Because I'm sure his LLC has changed names 7 times since this has happened. So, but if I mentioned his name in the Gettysburg area, people would probably know who he is.
What street address? What was the street address? Was there a number on the side of the truck? That was
No, I'm gonna leave it at that. But again, here's a good point with this though. You need to make sure that you know what your standards are for the finishes. So understand that when the FHA appraiser goes back out to the property, He is not going out to judge the quality of the work. They are going out to judge that it meets the minimum safety standards of FHA. And there is a huge difference between what FHA, so don't go, oh, well, I'm good. If my contractor does crappy work, I'm covered because FHA is going to go out and inspect it. That is incorrect. FHA is going out to inspect that minimum safety standards have been met. It is up to you as the buyer to stay on top of the project, to stay on top of the contractor, to make sure you're okay and you like how the work was completed. The contractor that I was referencing earlier, he decided to just take all kinds of liberties. He switched out the shower and put the shower in he wanted to put in. He must have had an extra door laying in his garage and decided to cut this door up, and it looked wonky and funky, and put a doorknob in the door where it didn't belong. And in his eyes, he put a new door on it, and the door will pass FHA, so I'm good. And it's like, no, that's not it. So as a buyer, I'm not trying to scare anybody, but I want you to understand as a buyer, you need to stay involved in the process. You can't disconnect. And you need to be very clear of your expectation with the contractor.
Very true. Yeah, you definitely want to interview if you don't have a contractor that you normally do work with, and most people don't. You definitely want to interview several, and in those questions, you want to ask them: are they familiar with getting work done in a required time period? Can
Right.
they meet these dates and deadlines? And part of the process with a 203K is you're going to have a couple different inspections. You're going to have your normal inspection that you want to have to find out what's going on with the property. But on top of that, you're also going to have a HUD inspector. And they're going to come through. They're going to take a boatload of photos. They may not say more than 6 words to you the entire time they're there because they really don't care if you're there or not. They're there to look for FHA issues around the house and take photos of them. So as they're putting their list together of, hey, I don't care what work you're doing, here's the work that needs to get done in order for us to make this work for an FHA loan. Because at the end of the day, once this all closes, that's how it closes as an FHA loan. So it must meet the criteria. So you are going to have a couple more inspections. And as Rob alluded to, timeline, I would give these a little bit more time. I would give these, 45 to 60 days. Yeah, I would give these 45 to 60 days. And the main reason is because now you've got a couple extra hands and people involved in the transaction that you don't normally have. So I think the last one I did, it got done in about 45, 48 days. We actually could have closed a little earlier, but vacations got in the way with a few folks. But long story short, count for, maybe a couple extra weeks to get these closed. You're going to have some more people involved because of the nature of this product. But the great thing is you're no longer competing with the same pool of buyers on the same homes. So you're able to go out and find yourself a really, really nice, solid house. And with using this product, get it under contract and turn it into exactly what you're looking for the time period you plan on living there, into the foreseeable future. Rob, you and I were just talking the other day, there are some buyers that will get hesitant to write a contract on a house because they haven't found perfect. Rob, have you ever found a perfect house?
Never. 20 years of doing this, I've never found, and I've sold new construction too. I've never found the perfect house. So all of them have quirks. All of them have issues or concerns. It's just a question of, can you live with them or not?
Yeah, it's so you can make grandma's house or you can make that dated home into what your desired home would be. I mean, in the area that we live in, we have a bunch of 1,200 to 1,700 square foot ranchers and Cape Cods. And when they're all said and done and they're updated, Rob, average price point, if I gave you that stereotype of an image of a house in South Central PA, give me a home value. Three beds, bath and a half, 1,500 square foot, rancher, Cape Cod, take your pick.
Fixed up?
Fixed up.
Ready to go? Probably in
Move
the
it.
250. 250,
250.
260 range. Yeah,
Okay, 250, 260, maybe even a little bit higher.
maybe.
Uh,
Yep.
so take that same house now, and it's got wallpaper. It's got the avocado porcelain tiles, and
Hmm.
it's got some brown, maybe even some greenish shag carpet throughout the house, and it smells like doilies.
Yes.
Yes. Now, what's the value of that house?
Probably 220, 215. It really depends. But yeah, it's going to definitely lose some value. There's no doubt about that.
But with just doing the cosmetics of, say, let's say you invested 10 grand
Okay.
into flooring and paint alone, that
Yep.
home is already, well under what you would have paid. And let's face it, if you're going after that $260,000 move-in ready home, the chances of you paying list price right now in our market,
Right.
slim to none.
Right.
You're probably actually closer to 300,000 till it's all said and done because of the amount of competition you're coming up against. So again, that's where the 203K loan, these rehab
Yep.
loans, really have their value, because you're able to get those homes that everyone else is passing by. Because I know, I don't know about you, Rob. I'm finding more and more buyers afraid to pick up even a paintbrush.
Yes. Yes. I would agree with that. I would say what makes this product a very good product is if you're someone who has some vision and can see what something could look like. I think we're losing that though. I think most people can only see what's in front of them. And unfortunately, though, some of the flippers that are out there know that. So therefore, they're going into these houses and they're doing what we always refer to as the lipstick on the pig. They're going in and doing the flooring and the paint while they're leaving you with windows that are failing, a roof that's about shot, and a furnace that's 70 years old. Used to be coal and has been converted from oil now to natural gas. Like they understand the psychology of the average consumer out there, unfortunately. And we're trying to raise that bar a little bit. We're trying to make the buyers a little more educated to know what they're looking at and what they're looking for. And this product allows that person to go in and make sure the heart, and not just the pretty stuff, but the heart and the soul of the house are solid for their family as well for years to come.
Very true. Yeah. And what Rob talked about a while ago, as we were really getting into this, is that not every lender does them. And not
Mm-hmm.
every lender that does them at a high level.
Correct.
To where they actually, it's like, hey, it's like walking into a store and you're like, hey, do you have the blue sponges? Yeah, I think we do. I know I saw them on a sheet one time. Check maybe aisle 25. You want a lender who not only does these, that knows they're what they are, but does them at a high level. And thankfully, we've had the opportunity to meet a couple lenders who do these at a high level, and the difference is night and day.
Right.
And we know the lenders that we work with, they all work really hard. That being said, when you have a specialized product like an FHA 203K loan, there's a few more missing pieces, and not everybody does them. So those that know how to do them, man, they're rock stars, and they can be your biggest
Yes.
advocate, because they know they know what string to pull and when to pull it and where it needs to be pulled from.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah,
there's no doubt about that at all. If you get the wrong loan officer trying to fumble their way through a 203K, it will be painful. It will
for
be very
everyone.
painful. One question, though, that I want to make sure we mention when you're interviewing contractors is, do they have the ability to purchase the material? Now, they may want a little bit of upfront money, and there's nothing wrong with a little bit of upfront money. The lender will more than likely let them get some of it up front, maybe a draw, and get the remaining balance at the end. But here's what I would recommend. If you're using a contractor that's not in a position to be able to get those materials, whether it be on credit or whatever, that's a good question to ask and a good question to know, because it could cause delays in the project. Because if that contractor says, hey, I'm done, I don't have no more money, I'm waiting for your bank to give me more money, now we're sitting here and waiting, things along those lines, You want to make sure that the work is being done, like I mentioned earlier, that it's being done right and it's quality work. In the instance that I had, that particular one really became a mess because we ended up firing that contractor halfway through the project and had to bring on another contractor. So if you think FHA 203K loans are fun, imagine after the deal's over and you're firing the contractor and you're hiring a new one. That added a whole other level of fun to the game. But here's the reason why you don't want to let that contractor get too much up front, because the draws were given to that other contractor that was fired, and that contractor isn't going to just voluntarily give the money back. Now you have to decide, do you sue him? Do you go through all the headache and rigmarole of suing somebody? And if you win, he's going to just change the name of the LLC to number 2. So Tommy's Construction LLC, and he'll just change it to Tommy's Construction #2 LLC. Well, now you're suing an entity that doesn't exist anymore. So be very, don't be afraid to have those money conversations with the contractor and see if they have the capability of getting the materials and things like that to get the work done. Because if you give too much money too soon and they don't work out, you're going to find yourself in a spot where you're trying to finish up what needs to be done with a little teeny tiny budget. And that is sometimes not possible to do. So again, these are a great product done correctly. And that's why experience matters both on the lending side and on the agent side. Because, I mean, I was still technically working that deal 45 days after it closed. So
Yes, you were. Yes. Speaking of professionals and liking, you should like this podcast and subscribe for more and more great experience that we'll be sharing with you every single week. By the way, this is episode 4 in 4 weeks. I am super, super proud of us.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's good stuff. We're killing it right now.
I wanted to ask you, because I know you've had experience with this personally, with the family member that did a 203K loan, and I've got experience with clients that have used a 203K loan. What are some key questions that you would ask a contractor as you're getting prepared for one of these, as you're interviewing contractors, going, hey, here's what I'm going to be doing, can you handle this? What's some great questions that you came up with during that time?
I would ask for references, people that you can call, that, and not family and friends. I want references of people who you've done work before similar to what I'm asking you to do. I think that's an important question, and I think you should take the time to make those calls. Most people don't, but I think it's important. I think it's important to get online and do a little bit of sleuthing on the interweb and see what you might be able to find out about the owner and the company. Remember, LLCs can change like people change their shorts. So not only doing a search for the LLC, but also doing a search for the person's name, maybe adding in contracting work and things like that, and just see what the internet has to say about them. Look on social media. Do they have a business page? Do they have any reviews? You're about to spend a lot of money. So just meeting somebody one time and they smile right and you go, okay, good. That's a lot of risk that you're taking. In the instance with us, my buyer actually technically paid for 2 roofs because the first guy did not put the roof on correctly. It was done incorrectly, and that's what started the domino effect. And with it not being put on correctly, the next roofing company was not willing to fix their mistakes and said it would have cost more money to fix it. So they had to come back out and rip a perfectly brand new roof off and throw it in the trash to put another brand new roof on to do it correctly.
That's a lot of money sitting in a trash can.
It's a lot of money sitting in the trash can. And here's the deal. Buyer could sue the contractor. Had enough evidence, photos, and everything to clearly show the contractor was breaking the contract. But you and I both know in this world we live in that going after somebody who's slimy is difficult because the slimy people know the rules. And the slimy people know how to use the rules to their advantage. And they know that if you do sue them and go after them, they're going to just change the name of the company to protect themselves. They do know if you get the win, but they don't show that they have anything. You have a beautiful piece of paper that says you have a judgment that you never see any money on. they do know if you go to do it, it's going to cost you money, and most people aren't going to bother going after somebody for several thousand. So instead of going through all that, ask the probing questions on the front end, look for reviews, make the phone calls to past clients, and learn as much as you can about that contractor before you say, look, that's my person. Final thing I'll say on it is the threshold to become an FHA contractor is as low as the minimum safety standards that FHA has to check out the property, meaning there's not a lot a contractor has to do to be approved. So don't go, oh, well, they're an FHA approved contractor, so they must be great. No, they just filled out the right paperwork and signed at the right place and stroked the right check.
Now, to the positive side of that, because there's a yin and yang to everything, and what Rob just is talking about is 100% true. On the flip side of that, if you have a connection, if you have a relationship with an amazing contractor, but they've never done a 203K loan, and you're like, hey, I really would like to use you to do my house. Are you an FHA? And they go, no. Great, because there's paperwork they can file to get on that list. And then they are an FHA approved contractor. So there is a good to that story as well. And that is if you've got a great contractor, a great contracting company, you're like, hey, I want to use you to do this because I know the great work you do, they can get on that list. So don't let that stop you either.
Yeah, the first question you want to ask them, though, is, are they okay with doing paperwork? Because they're going to need to do paperwork. So if they're a contractor that likes to write receipts on napkins and blank envelopes on the back of blank envelopes, they might not be there to do the FHA because they're going to want that itemized breakdown. So that would be the only caveat, if you will, to it.
So you're saying sheets, napkin notes are not permitted by FHA? No.
And I'm old enough to know that I have had contractors that have written estimates and quotes on the back of envelopes, back of a piece of scrap paper in the trunk, and they've killed it. Like their work was phenomenal, but on the paperwork side, they looked sloppy from a paperwork standpoint, but crushed it when it came to the saw and the hammer. So
I think that's how my godfather. I think that's how my godfather ran his masonry business forever.
Hey, listen, I mean,
he did a great job.
And that's the thing. Most people who like to work with their hands, they work with their hands for a reason. They don't want to do the paperwork. Like, look, I told you it's 1,500. It's 1,500. I'm gonna do a great job. Let's get it done. And most times that works. But every now and then, you and I know we'll jump online and pop on the news, and there's another contractor, another plumber, another electrician, another story of people feeling like they were taken advantage of. So asking those questions on the front end can hopefully prevent that situation. And I feel like we might have scared some people on this a little bit with that scenario. Let me say, that was, in 20 years of doing it, that was the only FHA 203K loan where I had a problem. It was a big problem, but it was one loan out of dozens of loans that everything went smoothly on it. But if you're like me, I learned a lot on that one bad one that I altered a little bit how I advise people when they do a 203K loan moving forward, because it only takes me one time, and I'm going to learn. You don't got to keep smacking me. I understand we're not doing this again.
Yep, you learned today. You learned today. So take what we've given you here today. If you have more questions, or you're thinking, hey, this might be a great tool for us to use as we're getting ready to go buy our first home or buy our second home, please reach out to us. We've done a bunch of these. We're familiar with how they operate. And we both really, really do agree that it's probably the one area that buyers are missing from having to compete at the level that most buyers are competing at, because they're all chasing the same house. Stop chasing the same house. Chase your house that you can do your way by using this FHA 203K. So if you've got questions, you want to ask us more, please reach out to us. And Rob, they can do that by?
You can find us on the internet at mmtwithexp.com. You can reach us at 717-885-2027. Or you can find us on almost all of the social media platforms.
Yeah, I
TikTok.
mean, and if you're watching this on YouTube, just comment. We will get
Yeah.
back to you, man. Yeah, please leave a comment, hit like, hit subscribe. We'd love to see the algorithms begin to grow as we are completing our first month
Yep.
of
And
the
this
Adam and Rob
podcast
Show podcast.
Yep, the podcast can be also found on Spotify. So if you have a Spotify account, all you need to do is go on and look for the Adam and Rob Show. And anytime a new episode is uploaded, if you saved it in your favorites, it will notify you and let you know.
And let's face it, you do not want to miss the golden tones of our voices.
You know, before we go, you said something earlier, and it made me laugh. I mean, it really did. Why do we say? Oh man, now I forget exactly how you said it, but we all say it when we're rambling on and talking.
Yes,
we make the reference about the short version. It's not the short version though. Man, why is my brain drawing a blank? Oh man.
but long story short.
Long story short, that's what it is. Thank you. So you were talking, and then and I'm guilty of it too. I think we all do it. We say, and long story short, and then the second half's longer than the first half. So it really should be a long story longer.
Right.
Because we're not shortening it in any way, shape, form, or fashion, but we all do it.
No, I will typically actually say long story medium. Like,
okay.
I'm at least at that point setting the expectation that this is probably going to be another 20 minutes, but it might not be an hour. You know,
yeah, I mean, your brain's telling you, hey, I went on too long, so I need to throw in that. And to make a long story short, which means, okay, it's going to be at least as long as the first half. Can I go to the bathroom quick, fill up my drink, get some popcorn, do something? But I don't know why. I thought I had to mention that because I found that a little funny.
Yeah.
So Adam, how can they find us?
You can call us at 717-885-2027. Go online at mmtwithexp.com. And, of course, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever Elon is calling it this week. YouTube.
Twitter, X, so
we're
not on there.
I've lost count, actually, at this point.
Okay.
But whatever Elon is doing, we're not there. Right. But yeah, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Hell, you might even find us on MySpace, or maybe there's an old leftover MySpace account. We'll see. Somebody check with Tom. But anyway, we ran out of time to discuss it, but next week we'll discuss the 203K version for sellers and how sellers can avoid being taken advantage of and flip their own house for better profits.
Ooh, the reverse flip.
How about that for a clip? That's the backflip. Yes.
The backflip. Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. Hope you have a great day, and thanks for tuning in.
We'll see you next week.